Other than being a member, other than being a member of IOD, I'm also a member of ISPAC, CIM, and also DMI. So thank you so much for getting the time to be here, and I hope that we'll have a session. So as usual, I'll take about 30 or so minutes to take you through my presentation, and then we will have a session for question and answer, address any kind of questions you might have, any clarifications that you might want on the topic, and so forth with you. So I think this is just more of a discussion, and especially at this particular pertinent time when you are celebrating the Internal Customer Service Week. Okay, so our agenda for the meeting is just to look at maybe just 4 key areas. One, to try and see at our level, at the board level or at the SMT level, what exactly is marketing? Where are we now as a country, as a society? And also some of the key marketing metrics that we need to monitor or to create an environment where we need to monitor and interrogate our organizations as we perform different tasks. Lastly, we'll end this by looking at some of the responsibilities we have, specifically as directors, as members of our organization, and as consultants are helping our organizations get to the best levels of their performance. So we'll start off by, first of all, seeing what exactly have we, is marketing something that all of us have passionately embraced? Is it something that we passionately follow? And we're having this discussion on the basis that so many times when you sit with marketers, when you sit with sales professionals, they always feel that marketing is the one function that is so misunderstood in their organizations. There's always the feeling that the board or even at the SMT level, there's more emphasis on the financial aspect of the organization, and which we totally agree that yes, finance accounting has become the language of the business, and we are totally in agreement with that. But are we doing enough, especially as the people who are responsible for creating the environment needed to nurture such kind of arguments from marketing, from different functions of the organization? And part of the problem that we're having is because in many cases, when you're looking at the growth of an organization, it starts with someone in a technical area who realizes maybe there's a gap here in what I'm doing. Maybe the customer doesn't get their order satisfied in time. Maybe the current organization I'm having is not reaching to this type of market effectively. So I start a business. And being a technical person in my area, I could be a finance person starting a consultancy firm. I could be an engineer starting an engineering entity. I could be a HR practitioner now into HR practice, right? The fact that you are a technician in your area sometimes means that you'll be able to perform extremely well in determining the product quality that you're developing for the market. But as the organization keeps growing, you always realize that you distance yourself then from the very basics, the layer that usually started you off at the start of the organization. So as we grow our organizations, as we now bring in our boards of advisors, our boards of directors, etc., you realize that there are some things that we have to go back to the basics. And one of them is appreciating what exactly is marketing. So what are some of the things that we look at as misconceptions at the board level? And also appreciating that most of us, we're not really within organizations that are well established or that have been in existence for 35 years. Not all of us are at the point where we are in boards of Safaricom's or KCBs. We are also board members who also are supposed to nurture the management team, or we could also be playing a very active role in determining maybe the agenda for the SMT meetings. With the SMT reports to us, we are able to interrogate what they're doing. So what are some of the things that we've seen? Most of us still believe that marketing is advertising, and that is not true. I've been into situations where the first thing that you're telling a CEO is we need to maybe incorporate marketing into our strategy. And the first thing is, so which radios are we supposed to be advertising on, right? That is not what marketing is. That marketing is common sense. We have been accused most of the time, again, as organization leaders, that where there's doubt with how a staff member is performing, the first thing that we do is what? Take them to a department like marketing, because we believe that while there, marketing is anything. Everyone can be able to do it. How hard can it be? And again, that is not a very true or a correct assumption to make. Marketing, yes, has got an art element of it, which brings about our creativity, our innovativeness, but there's also a science of marketing. They need to understand the psychology of the customer. They need to be able to understand how to strategize, how to develop marketing strategies that will be a source of competitive advantage for our organizations. There's also the feeling that social media and digital marketing by extension is free. And yes, we are in 2023, so all of us have to be on social media. So you just keep posting, right? So marketing isn't social media. And even if we are doing social media, it is still supposed to be looked at as a strategic tool to help us drive customer engagement, brand likability, and help us get to position our firms effectively. Not a question of this is where the interns that we hire are coming in, so your work is to be posting on a daily basis. We rarely even check what is posted on our company pages, right? Because we do believe that digital is just an extension. It is a good thing to have as an organization, but clearly that is not true. Another key misconception is that marketing is same as sales. And again, I've seen so many organizations where marketers are supposed to come to the organization, log into the system, and leave by 9 a.m. so that you can go outside and look for business, right? Or you're the one who is supposed then to call customers. And where we are not getting customers, then we also go back to asking market, so where are the customers? What is the value of your responsibility at the organization? But we have to understand that as entities, our responsibility, how do we earn revenue? We earn revenue when we make offers that are accepted in the market. When a sale happens when a customer is able to accept an offer that we have made. It could be a service, it could be a product, but that is the fundamental understanding of sales. We sell when our offers are accepted. So we need to look at marketing, therefore, as the function that helps us prepare the offer, and then now we take it to the salespeople who then put down this offer before the customers, and the customers can either accept or reject the offer. So sales will typically come at the end of the marketing process. So marketing becomes the function, the unit that helps prepare the offer that we are taking to the market. This is where we define what is our product, what are the things that we have to put in, how do we ensure that we get that emotional connection we need with our customers, how do we package this thing so that when now we're taking it to the market, it is a service that someone can actually say it has catered for the needs that I was looking for. So marketing provides the ingredients needed for sales to function, while sales then provides the feedback needed to tell marketing that how we prepared the offer was either okay, why? Because it was accepted, or it wasn't fine, why? Because we did not make any sales using the offers that we had created. So let us change 1, 2, 3 things here and the organization. Another assumption that we see is thinking that marketing is only for the large enterprises, for commercial enterprises, right? And that's not true. Marketing, as we've said, isn't advertising. It also means that it is a function that has to be inculcated in each and every organization. Why? Because marketing is in charge of the brand. Marketing is in charge of the offer that we are making to our audiences or our customers. And all of us, whether we are a church, whether we are an NGO, whether we are a government, whether we are a commercial enterprise, there's something we are offering to the market. How we make that offer purely is a function of marketing. So it's not just for commercial enterprises. So we have to think. So if at all these are some of the things, therefore, we're correcting at the board level, how do we go about this? And the answer is that we have to appreciate what exactly, therefore, is the value of marketing. When all is said and done, we must be able to achieve what is called a perfect product market fit. That is the fundamental responsibility of marketing, because it is until we achieve that product market fit that we are therefore able to generate as much revenues, because what we are doing therefore is providing solutions to our customers' pain points. How do we do this? We must understand what these customers are looking for. We analyze the market, and then we prepare an offer so that eventually we can say there's a perfect fit between the product we are offering and the needs that we've seen in our customers. If we are able to do that, then it means that we can now start asking the questions in terms of what are our customers looking for. Then marketing becomes the language, the one function that represents, that champions for what this customer is looking for. If our customer is the marking scheme, right, the person against whom we bounce our ideas and we see whether they accept or not, then we must bring their language to our boardrooms. We must be able to find a way of understanding what exactly is the customer looking for and what kind of solutions are we going to provide. If we do that effectively, then again, we then see the responsibility of marketing towards being the custodian of the top line. It is very easy for us to, especially in a typical organization, to look at, okay, finance is doing this, HR is doing this, but until a time when we now get to the point where we ask ourselves this, why aren't we making enough revenues, right? And I'm sure that is a question that has been on our mind each and every day. Are we making enough? Before we look at all these other things that we do, let's say the costs of doing business, the operating cost, etc., all of us usually have to start at the top line, the revenues. Are we making enough? And if there's no one who has been given that responsibility of being the custodian of the top line, then you see there's usually a lot of chaos at the organization, right? And because getting this top line is no longer about just us internally, there also has to be a customer who should be responsible for giving us the money, then we have to find someone who basically becomes the custodian of that top line. Different organizations create different top lines, but where marketing is elevated, then it becomes easier for it, therefore, to help generate what is required at the top line. Marketing is also important because it now helps us define the context of our business strategy. I usually look at strategy as a response we develop for the environmental dynamics that we're facing, right? Competition is very, very strong. We have to think how to deal with that. We have to develop a strategy. Our customers' preferences are changing. We have to respond to that. We have to develop a strategy. There's a strong regulatory environment in place. We have to develop a strategy and focus on compliance as an organization. So when we bring in customer insights, when we understand what our customers are going through, it makes it easier then to provide the required context through which then our strategy gets the basis or the legitimacy for it to be implemented. That we are not just haphazardly thinking, okay, so let us acquire so and so, or let us develop product X, but what exactly informs our decision to these kind of strategic responses? If we incorporate that, then it shows us why it's important to bring in marketing metrics so that we can start the process of measurement. But having said that, where are we now as organizations, as a society? And these 5 elements have helped us see how marketing has moved from what we've called marketing 1.0 to where we are now at marketing 5.0. Marketing 1.0 is a school of thought, a line of thinking where there's a lot of emphasis on how good a product we are developing for the market should be, which is perfect, that the product features, the things you put in your service, the offer that you make must have the features needed to satisfy both the rational and emotional aspects of your customer. Marketing 2.0 brings now the customer at the forefront of our decision-making process, saying that we need to ensure that whatever solution we are giving out there is relevant, and relevance can only be ascertained by the person who is on the receiving end, and that is the customer. So how are our ideas accepted by the customer or not? We then move to marketing 3.0, which is about now a lot of focusing on the value that we're creating, not just for the customers also, but also for ourselves. In a value-centric marketing, there's more now emphasis on things like partnerships, collaborations, ventures coming together to create formidable unions that can help satisfy different interests in the market. Then, over almost 15 years ago, a lot of emphasis then moved towards the use of technology as a basis, as an enabler of marketing in what we're now calling marketing 4.0. And this has given now rise to what we now refer to as marketing 5.0, which is now using this technology, but not just for the purpose of selling products, but rather technology for humanity, right? And this is where you find things like sustainability, AI, business resilience, or better CRM systems that are supposed to serve not just our profit interests, but also the well-being of the society. Now, does it mean that we have transitioned from marketing 1.0 to marketing 5.0? Not at all. It means that these 5 things are basically the layers through which we are supposed to see our marketing from. They provide the lens that we need to assess how good our marketing is. And that therefore goes without saying that a good marketing strategy should be able to demonstrate how it transitions or how these 5 elements of marketing are incorporated in that strategy. To what extent can we say that our product is well defined, that the customer is at the forefront of what we are doing, that we are seriously looking for ways in which we are improving the welfare, the value that we are offering to our stakeholders, not just our customers? How can we leverage technology, digital, online, etc., to ensure that we're also making it easier for the market? And can we also demonstrate that as we're doing all these things, then we are also focusing on humanity aspects of our business. So it means that marketing is changing, and there is a lot, especially as the people who are responsible for setting the climate on what our organization should be doing, there's a lot that we have to consider. So is it important to measure marketing? Is it important to have the conversation of marketing at the boardroom? Of course it is. Why? If you're looking at most of the organizations, one of the fundamental questions we have to ask is, do we understand how the business is structured? What is our business model? And if you have, especially those of us who've been involved in creating or advisory of young organizations, startups, etc., one of the questions all of us are usually asked is, what is your business model and how is it structured? In 2019, we had this business model canvas, which tells us that it's important from a strategic perspective to understand how exactly your firm is supposed to make money. How does it capture? How does it create value? And at the center of this particular framework lies something we call the value proposition. And that is, what exactly is your promise to the different segments of the market that you're serving? And how will this promise be as relevant as it should to the different customers? In the midst of many businesses collapsing, especially startups, we've seen cases of the Kune, cases of Sandy, etc. There has always been a question of how strong has been the business model at the start of these operations, and to what extent can we say that the companies updated or made revisions to their business model as the dynamics in the market changed? One thing that I know is this, that every organization, whether you're a premium brand or not, the dynamics of premiumness can get diluted over time if you do not go back to understanding what exactly is your business model. So marketing is usually a very important function of the organization because it then helps us develop a better understanding of what exactly will make our brand stand out, what exactly are we proposing to the market, and which kind of markets are these that we actually proposing these to. Which kind of segments are we serving out there? And once we know that, it's easier then for us to define the relationships we want to develop out there and the channels that we need to use in order to serve those particular customers. You can therefore say that once we have taken care of the client and sales side of things, it then becomes easier to ask, okay, so for us to effectualize the proposition, what activities, what resources, who are our key partners, and then overall, how are we absorbing our costs and how will the business make money? If we understand marketing, then it helps us take care of the very important function, which is the client side of our business model. Secondly, is that some of us also rely on the balance scorecard as another tool that we can use to set our performance measurement. I've seen many cases where even staff performance is measured using from a balance scorecard perspective. Now, if you're looking at the balance scorecard, literally, we know that it gives us the 4 areas that we have to check as organizations so that we can have a balanced view of how our strategic focus or implementation happened. But the cyclic approach to this balance scorecard tells us that financial perspective, which then becomes the language of the business that we use, can only be achieved. And the intention here is to achieve the highest levels of profitability. So that therefore means that for us to be able to increase our profits, we have to ask, how do we increase our profits? The scorecard tells us that you increase your profits by ensuring that you increase the revenues that you get per user and also decrease your operating costs. But immediately, before we get to this financial, where are we getting all these things from? That the ability for you to improve the clarity of your offering to the market, the ability for you to have developed proper market perception, and the ability to improve even the user experience are the 3 things we do in the customer perspective to help us, therefore, present better financial performance. So right from the word go, the scorecard tells us that you cannot think of superior financial performance if you have not taken care of the first 3 things in that particular order. Start by internally appraising and appreciating, creating an environment where there is a learning and growth, where capacity is created, which now means that your business processes will be implemented efficiently by the people that you have trained and given the tools needed. And that when staff members implement the processes efficiently, the recipients of these are basically the customers. When we improve the welfare of the customers, then we can now start thinking about generating superior financial performance. That means that at this particular layer here, we need to ask ourselves, how well are our customers satisfied? To what extent are they likely to promote their brand out there through measurement of our net promoter scores? To what extent are we retaining or losing customers? Are we monitoring the customer acquisition costs and comparing them to the retention costs, and which one is easier for us, right? Is it easier to acquire customers or is it easier to retain customers? How are we also measuring the expected lifetime value that we expect from these customers as indicators of success at this particular point? It's important to note that as we do this work, we're basically saying that it's crucial for us to, as directors, imagine if you're in a board meeting and you're analyzing the financial statements. It could be the historical financial performance the past 6 months. That is not enough. We have to ask ourselves, so how did we generate these financial statements? How did we get to a top line of X and a profit of Y? The more we start now wanting to ask the questions or the answers, the more we want to get the answers, the more it leads us to these places where we're asking, but are we doing enough to generate the revenue that is expected? Marketing is equally important because every business is required to be able to analyze its environment on a day-to-day basis, because as we had said earlier, any strategy that we develop as businesses is usually as a response to something that either has happened, is happening, or is likely to happen, right? When do we again develop new products? When do we enter new markets? When do we partner with government? It's because we see opportunities, we are able to take advantage of them, we have the resources and so forth. So on a day-to-day basis, or naturally, businesses monitor several things that affect their performance. One, we have to get a very in-depth analysis of our organization. What is our source of competitive advantage? What is this thing that we do better than every other person in the market? Do we have the right resources to support this, the culture, and so forth? We also need to understand who the collaborators are. In this case, we look at our value chain. We have to think of the customers, the people that we prepare this value for, who are they, and what are the behaviors? How are their preferences changing over time? And what impact does it have on our top line? What about our competitors? Who are they? What is their source of competitive advantage, right? It is only through this analysis, you remember the other day, who is your competition? They never mentioned that my competition is Showmax or whatever. No, they actually say that the competition to their business model is sleep, right? Because you must be able to distract someone from sleeping. For you watch one thing, something for 1 hour, they tell you that it's just one is the person that the customer is dividing the attention with. That is the person that you want to focus on. So other than that, we also need to monitor the overall then context through which we do our business, the external, the macro environment through things like pestle. Marketing becomes an important function of any organization in the sense that it should help the organization monitor these aspects and devise metrics needed for us to say that we are in check with what is happening in our business environment. We don't want to get surprises because we didn't know. If you're looking at the stories of successful businesses, the Netflixes of this world, the Apples of this world, they tell you something about when a lapse happened in the incumbents at that particular time in the market, and they never knew where the market was heading to. They thought that their premiumness was solid, was intact, but it has always been proven that the market, the environment dynamics will change at one point. So how quick are we to respond to those particular changes? That is the biggest question. So having said this, it therefore becomes important therefore to ask ourselves, okay, how then do we measure our performance in marketing? And I'm saying this because I recognize that as directors, we might not be the ones who do the actual measurement, right? It is not our responsibility to be able now to go and compute for our micro enterprises what is our foot traffic. But it is our responsibility to set the climate where now the people we entrust with the responsibility of doing marketing are able now to come, and we should be able to interrogate what our value for marketing should be. Marketing can only be demonstrated in terms of numbers, in terms of whether it makes sense or not. So as you move across the different entities, of course, it's impossible for all of us to discuss these metric after metric. But we have to appreciate one thing, that marketing helps us go out there to be able to say the extent to which we are doing, our brand is well accepted, and the kind of feedback we are generating to help us do better. At the micro level of the business, our main focus is on starting our business with the intention of creating a name for that business and something that will make us not be wiped by competition in the first 3 years. Under SME, then we are trying, most of us want now to even position our organizations as thought leaders in that particular space that we're in. For the larger corporations, now we are listed, or we have a larger demographic of people that we are serving. And of course, the scope of what we do is also very, very high. Not for profit, a particular category, we still have responsibilities to our key customer, who is the donor or the person who provides us the funding, but also to the beneficiaries, who are the communities that we serve and all those other stakeholders. But as we do this, we need to appreciate that in 2023, we have to look at both the offline and the digital aspects of our measurement. But it doesn't mean that now all of us have to create similar metrics. No, 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 no. It's always important that every business defines what is relevant for it in that industry it's in, and then focuses on how then do we measure these. Your role, especially as a board member or an advisor to an organization, is to try and see how we created the climate through which we can analyze these marketing metrics and see the value that they bring to the organization. I've been in two scenarios where in a board meeting, the agenda is set, and the first thing is the analysis of the financial statements, and then the SMT, or maybe through the CEO, we see the kind of strategy that the firm is implementing, etc. And then as an AOB, marketing then comes in, that there's some marketing report somewhere that then has to be analyzed, and that is an AOB for the business. Your guess is as good as mine that by the time you're done with that meeting, there's totally nothing that we are talking about in marketing. We also appreciate one thing, that it is not our responsibility as directors to think about the day-to-day strategic decisions of the organization. Why? Because we trust this responsibility to the CEO, to the management team, because they're the ones, they come to the organization to bring that competence, the ability for them to think and decide that this is the right strategy given the resources at their disposal. However, the environment that we create is very, very important. If we interrogate what marketing is doing, then we show the importance to every other stakeholder, and therefore we create room for them then to see we have to report to the board about how we're performing in marketing. If we know that we will question how we are generating, how our business model is moving over time, then we create an environment where everyone knows that there is a need for us to demonstrate our value in marketing. But over time, we're supposed to move and see how then do we incorporate both the offline and the online aspects as we monitor our performance over time. As we move into, let's say, the SMEs where we are doing a lot of digital marketing, right? Thinking about spent the click-through rate of it has got to do with how well our is also there's also now the importance of incorporating ESG aspects into our business. This week we saw, actually yesterday we saw Safaricom launch the sustainability report. Early in the week we saw KCB also launch that the focus of the business world is also to try and see how are we positioning ourselves for humanity and not just profits at the bare minimum, right? So in many cases, our responsibility as directors is so much towards the environment that we create. That's why now we are at this point. So as directors, as the people who are responsible for the oversight of the organization, how does this role intertwine with the marketing, or how do we ensure that we create that climate that we've been talking about? One of the things that we're saying is that there's need for us, because we are in charge of the overall, right, oversight on the direction the company takes. We need to ensure that the strategy that we are interrogating, that strategy that we are approving, what management is thinking of doing, we must be able to ensure that it is informed by the realities of the operating environment and the insights we've collected from our customers at the very bare minimum. Secondly, is that most of us, our work comes in so handy under the aspect of risk and governance issues related to that. In our last week's presentation, there was a lot of emphasis on our responsibility as directors in the areas of risk. But sometimes, most of us usually take that conservative approach where we are looking at risks that might harm our operations, risk that might harm our systems, etc. And some other time, we also see that there are major risks like our strategic uncertainty, the risk that the strategy we are implementing as a firm might not be good enough to sustain us as the business moves in the dynamic operating environment. What are some of the product obsolescence cases that we are likely to face? And is our risk register well updated to also include such kind of marketing risks? We are in the era where there's a requirement for heavy regulatory compliance, especially in matters to do with the data protection. We also saw such cases on social media as a country last week. And we realize that it is not even, most of the time, the risks are actually generated by the staff members, because in marketing, it is a happy occasion. We are taking photos, we are writing emails, we are telling people to subscribe. I have targets where I need to bring in 3 leads, right? So all those things, if we are not careful, might actually end up harming the brand over time. If you're looking at making communications to customers who are in the maybe EU countries and there are issues to do the GDPR, they say that it is not about countries, or the organization should not be stationed in the EU region for it now to be responsible for their data under GDPR. If your recipient is in the EU, right, then you have to think about GDPR and how well you're actually communicating to that particular audience, which is not something that we can take lightly. So as a board, it's important to think how robust is our risk governance framework that we are likely to see. As we do our financial oversight, it's also important that we try to ensure that we get maximum value for money, and that is through measurement of the return on marketing investment. But we can only do that if we understand these basic measures of marketing performance, or have a clear mechanism where we are interrogating them at the board level. In our performance evaluation framework, as we approve the policies through which people are measured in terms of their performance, we also need to ask ourselves, is it well structured to also ensure that marketing metrics are the core of the people responsible for that? There are times when, especially in small organizations, you might also see that everyone has got marketing KPIs. HR has got people that are supposed to bring in finance. You're judged on number of tenders that you've also applied, right? And in as much as it might happen or might work in the short term, that does not really create a long-term sustainable strategy for the business. So in our performance evaluation framework, as we approve those policies, as we approve the compensation frameworks, to what extent are we including marketing metrics as part of that framework? We can't forget our responsibilities in areas of brand and reputation management, right? And at the bare minimum, we are always required, even as directors, to think about how to do to get some media training, because when all these things are said and done, there's also the need for us to stand behind our organizations. During crisis moments, we also have to ask, where are the directors of the organization? And that is when you realize the need for you to have monitored, to have been closer to the conversations happening in the market, even as a director of the organization. The most successful directors, CEOs, senior managers are those who found a way, however high the office is, to also get their ears on the ground to see where the actual feedback comes. Over and above, it's our responsibility as the board, as directors, to try and give marketing a voice and a place, so that our strategy, so that the environment we create is one where there's emphasis on performance. Depending on what your true north measures of success are in marketing, whether it is the revenue, whether it is market share, whether it is engagement, it is our responsibility, I think, as a board, to be able to create such an environment where we evaluate, we think about our customers. It's no wonder that on subjects like this, most of us end up and sweets for our customers. Why? Because it's an internal thing. So that is the much we can do. But if you ask your customer, they might have something totally different to share with you in terms of how then do you show appreciation to what they're doing. So that's all I had for you. And I want to leave you with this, that when it's said, the best marketing shouldn't feel like marketing. It shouldn't feel like we are beating this thing each and every day. No, it is well integrated into what we do, and we have to find a way of bringing the language of the customer to the boardroom. When we do that, it becomes easier for us to engage our customers, for us to say that, yes, we are one step ahead, or we are in sync with what the customers are saying. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you once more for making it this early. So I think at this point, I'd like to invite your questions, any comments, feedback as we wind up. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tatiana, are there any queries or
Thank you, Bonnie. Tatiana, are you available? Can we take some few questions, please? I can see some few comments from Michael Mwite. Thank you for a very insightful presentation from Michael Mwite. Grace Nzivwa, a wonderful presentation. Robert Mayama, thank you for the insightful session, much appreciated. I'm seeing a few directors who are also with us. Maybe I could just pick one or two and see whether we could be having some comments. I'm seeing Director Nyambura Koigi. Nyambura, welcome. Any feedback? It's been a while since we heard from you.
Thank you. It was a very good presentation, but I was just wondering, how often should we get feedback from clients? Because that came out strongly that it's good to listen to the clients. How often should it be? An annual event? Or how often?
Thank you so much, Nyambura.
Just take note of that, Bonnie. Maybe we can take one more. I'm seeing that Dr. Edward Kobudi, your hand is raised up. Dr. Edward, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, CEO. Good morning, colleagues. So I came a bit late, but I think I wanted to find out from the presenter, maybe cover this before I joined in.
Yes.
People expect, when you put marketing money, they expect results instantly.
Yes.
How do you reconcile that marketing you need to invest and it's long term and the need to get to see the returns immediately?
Yes.
So remember that the marketing it's very dynamic. You may want, for example, to get brand visibility, but others are also competing with you. So how do you reconcile the two? And remember, a lot of boards, majority of the board members will be non-marketers, probably the only one marketing person or even none.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie. You can also take note of that. Maybe we can pick one more. I can see my good friend, Director Theuri Muni. Theuri, would you like to say something before I invite Bonnie to respond? You can unmute yourself, Mr. Theuri.
Okay. I wanted to ask Bonnie, how do you measure ROMI, return on marketing investment?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Bonnie,
so much.
you can take those three for now.
Yes, I will. Okay, thank you so much. The first one was how often are we supposed to get feedback from our customers? And it will depend on the efforts and especially the KPIs that we have set as our true north measures for marketing. Why do I say this? If I'm talking about customer satisfaction index, net promoter scores, then it is possible that we can decide at every interaction we have with a customer. You've seen, let's say you're going to Java, you've taken a cup of coffee. As you pay through your mobile phone, there is a question that is sent to your phone. Are you able to rate us on one scale of 1 to 10? How well can you maybe recommend the organization? So it will depend with the number of interactions or the moments where we interact with our customers to set some of the questions we ask in our feedback programs. So is it on an interaction basis? And over time, can we now summarize this information and maybe quarterly see how our net promoter score results are coming in? Or is it something that we need to do half yearly, right? For things like market share, revenue will monitor this on a regular basis because it is basically the health of the organization. Our product portfolio and how it performs in the market, how healthy our portfolio is something that you'll expect to be monitored, let's say, on a quarterly basis. Digital metrics, on the other hand, because of the fact that they're short-term in nature, we also need to look at it from a quarterly perspective. So at least when our organization is structured that the board, for example, meets maybe once a quarter or 3 times in a year or even 5 times a year, we can schedule in such a way that they happen at the time when we have monitored most of these KPIs now for purposes of interrogation at that particular point. So how often? I will say it will depend on the KPIs that you're measuring and how urgent or the kind of the frequency that is required then for you to make a decision. Because waiting until a year has lapsed for you to make a decision on whether your digital efforts were successful might not be the most appropriate way to go about it. But it's also not possible that you can be measuring your market share on a monthly basis. So the timing has to be in line with, again, how dynamics are changing in your market. The second question was on the immediacy of returns, especially when we have given a spend, provided a budget, and we expect that there is immediate money in the bank for that initiative. Now, that is one of the biggest challenges that we faced as marketers all throughout. But I need us to understand that marketing, the way we've just said that marketing is the caretaker function for the brand. We have brand building initiatives that will naturally be long-term. We have brand building initiatives that might have immediate results. If I'm doing a sales promotion and I've spent money on sales promotions, then I will expect some immediate results on that particular month when I'm running the sales promotions. But if I'm doing CSR, if I'm also thinking about improving my supply chain and ensuring that I meet my sustainability goals environmentally or otherwise, then these are things that are basically long-term. So when you're looking at our engagements, even in communication, in marketing spend, we have to ask ourselves, to what extent or what amount of budget are we committing to something we called profiling the brand? Profiling the brand is where we are deliberately investing in long-term initiatives that are supposed to yield long-term fruits to the organization. So we can make a decision that out of 10,000 shillings we spend on marketing, 20% will be on initiatives that go into profiling the business. And how do we then start measuring over time? The marketing metrics have changed also. And nowadays we're supposed to monitor things like return on relationships. I think it was somewhere on the table. There was something about return on relationships or even return on partnerships and sponsorships, right? Because these things can only come in if we look at marketing from the long game perspective. If we take marketing as a transactional perspective, we lose because the brand has to be built over a period of time. So I think it's easier for you then as a board to sit and decide that in every marketing spend we have, despite the fact that you have the resources, right? We will spend at least 20% to be able to profile and build the brand in a more stronger way, while 80% we should be able to see the returns and immediate impact on the organization. But it has to come from at least the board perspective. The last question was on how do we determine the return on marketing investment? Now, ROMI ideally is computed by looking at, this is, let's say, a marketing campaign that I'm running. It could be digital, it could be a sponsorship, it could be a sales promotion, but the focus is just basically on the marketing aspect. So you look at this particular campaign, and how much am I basically spending on this campaign? Maybe it is X amount of resources. How much do I expect to earn from the execution of this campaign? So if it is short-term like sales promotion, we expect that the results will trickle in immediately. So at that point, I can then come and say, what is the profit? What is the return that I have generated from this campaign divided by the investment or the cost that I incurred in running that marketing campaign? It will give me my immediate return on marketing investment. But the return itself can take different forms. For example, that's what we're talking about, return on relationships. If these are relationships built purely out of marketing efforts, you can look at, I started my business to deal with the two major corporates or major partners. This is how far we are in the relationship, and these are the benefits that I'm bringing in. Another thing that we also have to consider is that not all these returns can be quantified, right? So let's say I'm doing a digital campaign, and there's something here which we call the marketing qualified leads and also the sales qualified leads that you generate from such a campaign. They'll not come in form of money immediately. But you can decide that as a basic measure for you, when you're doing your digital campaign, you need to ensure that for every 1,000 shillings spent, we need to at least see maybe 50 marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads that we are generating. So it will take different forms, but at the basic level, it is to look at the profit you generate from a given campaign divided by the investment that you put into that campaign. I hope that answers your query.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the feedback. Thank you, Dr. Nyambura, for the questions. Thank you, Dr. Kobudi, and my good friend Theuri. Thank you very much for that feedback. Just a few more. I can see feedback from Nyambura Koigi. Insightful, return on relationships or partnerships. Patricia, a great and insightful presentation. I think we've talked about the issue of feedback. Winfred Bundi, thank you. And of course, from Phoebe Nandwa, really, really timely. Thank you very much, directors. It's now 1 minute to 9. Let me hand this back to Tatiana so that then we can close the meeting. But even as we do that, from where I sit, I want to express my very sincere gratitude to all of us and also to our presenter, Bonnie. And just to let us know that one of the things that we have noted is that there are very few marketers who get opportunities to sit in boards. And therefore, as an IOD, we are keen to see how we can support and change that narrative, because we realize the critical role that this function plays in driving organization sustainability. So feel free to reach out to us and see how we can be able to work together, even as we strive to ensure that there are more directors who are equipped and skilled to serve in various boards. Thank you very much. Tatiana, over to you so that you can close the meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meshach. That's well summarized. Thank you, directors, for your time and for your participation. I'll just kindly urge you to watch out for our upcoming Essential of Directorship program. If you haven't registered or if you haven't done this program, we kindly request you to register for the same. It's going to be on October 12th to 13th. It's going to be a webinar series for 2 days from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and thereafter you shall receive your certificate. The Essential of Directorship program is a program that outlines the roles and the responsibility of a director and also liability, and it's going to be part of your full directorship in IOD. And we also have a SARO program coming up. So kindly respond to our emails and our calls. I know we normally call you guys to update you on the upcoming events. Looking forward to seeing you all participating. Without further ado, thank you once again and have a blessed Friday. And once again, happy customer service week from the Institute of Directors, Kenya. We shall share the slides, and if you have any further comments, kindly feel free to reach us out. Best regards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.